Hey crafters, welcome to the DM's Craft. I'm DM Scotty, good to have you with me. Today I'm going to show you a time-saving technique. And before I've shown you techniques where you can cut out sections of a tile to represent maybe going into a cave, into a lower part of the cave, an exit, or to create a water feature. Today I'm going to show you a technique where you don't actually have to cut out the tile to add those features. So let's go to the table and I'll show you how I do that. For the start of my project, I just made a standard cave tile. And you can see I've already lined the walls with the hot glue as I did in the cave tile video. Now, what I want to do is we're gonna add a couple features to this tile, but I'm not gonna cut any holes in it. Okay, I'm gonna use the hot glue. So what I want to do is I want to have a exit here. Okay. So it's kind of like a cave that goes down. And then I'm going to have a water feature here and here. Okay. So normally you could cut this out and then stick another piece of cardboard underneath and do the details like I've shown for each feature. But there's an easier way actually, and it still looks really well, and it still gives some dimensionality to the tile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hot glue gun, and for, say, we'll start with the cave, I'm going to draw a thick bead around the entrance to that cave, okay, or that entrance. And then I'm just kind of pull it out. So I'll let that sit. And I'll do the same thing for the other two water features. And then we'll come back and talk some more about it. So here's the cave tile. So you can kind of see the little bit of glue that's built up there. Now I'm going to do it again. So I'll grab my glue gun and start on this. So I want to build another layer. Be pretty generous, because this is going to be the separation between the pool and the tile itself. And then just pull a little bit of glue out, so it's not just a line, so it gives a little bit of interest. Okay, there. So that, can't see it very well, but that'll give a nice a difference between the pool here and what'll be the rest of the cave tile. Now I'll do the rest with the other two here. And what you can do is you can also add a little bit of kind of distressing to the tile. So if you're not going to add any kind of pillars or anything, be careful about areas where you're going to add pillars, because you don't want to add stuff and then you set up the pillar on it and it falls over or it's wobbly. So you could kind of drag your glue gun around a bit. So this will kind of don't give any kind of definite lines there, just kind of give a general texture to this. And this will give a little bit of interest to cave tiles also. Here, I'll give you a little look at that. You can see that. And then you can also do things like build up a little bit of mound. So you could put a pretty good glob, and then you can kind of just pull it out. And remember, this will kind of glob up. So you can always go back and do another layer of that kind of thing, so it's not quite so globby looking. Now I'll just add a little bit of So now what we'll do is, after these kind of globbies dry, I'm going to do another layer on top of those. I'm also going to do another layer for the cave exit and I've already done the water here. So I'll do the cave exit and this water pool here. I'll do a little bit more glue on here because this is just kind of turned into a big blob. When it dries for the first time, you can actually add less glue and then give it more texture. So that kind of, so you know, don't rush this. And you can see these little extra places I've added, give it a little bit of interest. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and finish that up, and then I'll paint it up with the standard stone spray texture, and I'll give you a look at it, and then we'll finish it up. Before I paint this, I forgot to do one thing. I need to do the water, so I'll just take my glue gun and do the kind of the texture of the water. That just helps give it a little bit of definition. You could actually have it more of a still pool and not have the water. You didn't have to. And you notice I'm not filling this in, I'm just adding some lines. All right, so now we'll go paint this and show you what it looks like. Here's my cave tile, and you can see I've put the stone texture on, but I haven't added any other details. Now what I usually like to do at this point is to add the sand flocking. And the reason I like to do that is because if you add it before you paint the texture on, it'll kind of gum up the flocking and it'll lose the detail. So what I'm going to do is kind of add some flocking, random flocking. It's kind of nice to add it to the edge, a little bit to the edges of these pools or cave exits. It gives a little more definition to it. All right, so I've got all those covered up. So I'll just let those dry, and then we'll begin to paint some detail on this. Here's my tile, and you can see that all the flocking is dried on there. Now, you can see that the flocking really doesn't do much at this point because the texture makes it look like stone, but it's very flat. This tile still looks very flat, and that's the great thing about this technique. This part of doing our tiles is the most important part. Of course, it's important to get to get everything glued on and correctly, but really this finishing touch is what really makes the tiles pop. It really makes them special. So you don't skimp on this part if you're going to spend the most time on this part, because this is very important to making your tiles look great. So and practice makes perfect. Don't get discouraged if you're not getting the result you want. It does take some practice, so just keep practicing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flat black. Or I'm going to use a acrylic black, I'm sorry, and I'm going to water it down, and you can hear my brush, and I'm going to water it down quite a bit. And I usually like to go over the walls, so I can give it a little bit of shading. Not too much. You're not trying to get it as dark as the shadow texture. And then, in the tile itself, give a little bit of shadow. And since this floor has some texture or highlight or dimension to it, this part can really help bring some of that texture out of the floor, because then you can dry brush it after you're done with this part, and it will give you some really nice results. So I'm kind of giving some shading to the raised areas of glue that I did. And this will give it some dimensionality when we add a highlight. Now remember, the paint will always dry a little bit lighter than what you're putting it on. So don't freak out if you're thinking, oh, I think I have it too dark. But make it pretty wet. Don't make it too too dark. And you can see that I've got, I haven't really touched my piles yet of rubble, because I really want to concentrate on those as far as getting them dark. So I'm going to wet them a bit, and this will help the paint soak into that flocking. So now I'm done with, I'm going to be done with this brush. I'll put a little bit more black on there, just kind of some. And this is all the art part of the tile. You know, you're just having fun. Okay, so now I'm going to use a smaller brush, and I'm just going to dip it directly into the black. I'm not watering it down, and then I'll paint over these rubble piles. And they're already wet, so they're going to suck that up like a sponge. And this will be great when we do the highlighting, because this will really give some dimension to the pile. It'll give it some quite a bit of dark separation on those rocks. Yeah, make these fairly dark. You can see they're darker than the rest of the tile. And if the water starts to, if the piles have dried out a little bit, you can always add some water to this, to the paint, just to get it to stick. Or actually absorb into the piles. You really want it to, you don't want the paint to be sitting on top, you actually want it to absorb into that pile. Okay, now we got some interest on that. And we've got two water pools here. This is actually kind of an exit out of the out of this tile. It like goes down further into a cavern system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it like a hole. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll use my bigger brush here. And I'm going to use pretty dark black. I'm just going to fill that hole in. And I'll come back in a bit and do some little bit of lighter shading on that to make it look like it's descending into a hole, kind of an optical illusion. So that you can kind of add a few more distresses on that if you want. So now really don't rush this part. You want to let this dry before you try to do the dry brush step, because it'll just be a mess. Don't be too excited about going on to the next step. You really need to let it dry. So give it a chance to dry really well, and then we'll move on to the next step. Oh, you can also, this stage you can also do the shadows, the shadows along the walls. In this tile, we're really not going to have that much, because we've got the water. Another thing I've seen people do when they do the shadows is they do them too dark. Don't use the black straight onto the tile. Definitely wet the black down a bit, and that'll kind of make it more like a shadow instead of a black line. So right now they look pretty much like black lines, but I've watered this down, this black down, and it'll when it dries, it'll look more like a shadow. So, all right, so we will let this dry, and then we'll come back for some more our highlight detail. Now that we've let our shadows dry, the next most important part is putting on the highlight. And I usually use a dolphin gray to add the highlight. So I've got a big chisel brush, and I'm just going to grab my gray, my light gray. And first I'm going to go around the edge like this. And you notice I haven't painted the water yet. I'm going to paint that last. That way, now that I'm painting the edge, I don't have to worry about getting anything in that pool there. And you see how that really brings out that edge. Just really nice. Now the same thing with the edges of the pools. I'll just start, and the stone rubble piles. Look how that's really bringing that out. You can also lighten up some of that dark and pull out some of that detail that you put on the tile by gently doing this. And this is just the dry brush technique. We've talked about this and everything. So now do the exit to the cave there. Might knock a stone loose there. So see how that really adds, that really has transformed this tile and made it look great. So what I'm going to do is I'll just come back and we'll show the finished tile. I'm going to come back and do the water pools just like I've done in my other water video. For the cave, I'm going to do a little something here. For the cave going down here, I'm going to use a touch of pewter gray, and I've wet it down quite a bit, and I'm just going to kind of, a little more water there, just going to kind of wring it like this, and you can kind of make it look like it's going down into that hole. All right. Now I've got quite a bit on there. So I'm going to add a little bit more black to even this out. So I'm doing this while it's still wet. Got some black there. I'm just going to kind of come and fill that in a little bit with black. Kind of blend it into each other. So the goal is to make it look like it's receding into the hole. So it's just kind of a trick of the eye. All right, so there we go. Give you a better look. There we go. Okay. So like I said, I paint the water pools and then we'll come back and take a look at it. Here's our completed tile. You can see it looks really, really nice. So I have a figure here for scale comparison. And it's kind of our standard, cave tile, but we have several water features and an exit that could go down to another level. You can see that the rubble that I put on there, or the rock piles, and the texture that I put on it with the glue gun, and then I used to rim the water feature and the exit, really kind of blend all together to make it look really nice. Like it really has a defined edge that really makes it nice and definite on the tile. It's definitely differentiates the areas, and it looks like they're separate areas on the tile. It's that relief of the glue gives it just enough to make it look like it goes down into the water. So this is a really great alternative to cutting up your tiles and having to do all that extra work to add a bottom layer. So just do this. Just take the glue gun like I showed you and create these features on your tiles quick and easy. That's what this crafting is all about. I want to show you another water feature I did with the same technique, different tile, and it's a bigger water feature, so I'll show you that now. So this one with the water feature, I did the same technique. I used, put the glue line there and did some little bit of texture on the tile to make this kind of blend into it. I also added some little rock piles in the water. So I did the glue on there and then did some ripples around those rock piles. So those look really nice. You also notice on another feature that I did, I just cut out another piece of cardboard and put it in the middle of the water, did some ripples around it. So normally with this, with the regular water technique, you would have had to cut this part out and cut all this out of the tile and then put it underneath and everything. And that's a lot of work to get that to all match up and everything. But this is just super simple. Just draw the line with the glue gun, match it into the rest of the tile, and then I just added the island on top of that. So looks great and super easy technique to do. So take care, and I'll see you next time on the DM's Craft. Hey crafters, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the DM's Craft. Make sure to subscribe, and I have tons of other videos, as you can see. I am the originator of the 2.5D method of crafting tiles. I also do dirt cheap terrain for the table. If all this intrigues you, make sure you check out all the videos below. Also, join my forum. We have lots of great crafters on there who give advice. I have a link above and below. And last but not least, remember, go forth and craft!